Welcome to Thriving with Trisha, the podcast for ambitious 20 somethings chasing big dreams and building lives they actually love. I'm Trisha, your host. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Thriving with Trisha. I cannot believe we are officially on the brink of a brand new quarter. So, tomorrow is October 1st, which means we're entering Q4, the last quarter of the year. And I feel like there's a special kind of energy because we're looking back on where did this year go? But then there's also the part that there's still so many things that can happen and so many opportunities. And I actually have a lot of notes with me today because I have a lot to talk about. And this episode is going to be about achieving your goals this last quarter. And I get asked a lot about my journey. So, how I went from my job working at an agency and then doing full-time UGC, traveling, and now getting into entrepreneurship in my 20s. And honestly, while it might look complicated from the outside, what I do is actually really simple, and it's a mix of intentional reflection and focused action. And today, I really want to pull back the curtain and share my personal no-fluff process for closing out a chapter and starting a new one with clarity and momentum. And I want to say this isn't some guru's 50-step system. I'm not a guru. This is just what works for me. Someone who's trying to build a life that I love and what's been working for me because I've been doing this, I want to say, for around 5 years now. And I'll share exactly how you can do it too. And so I'm going to break this down into two parts, the reflection part and then the action plan. And I'll have my laptop with me the whole time because there's just all the notes on it. So if you're ready, let's get into it. So before we can even think about setting new goals, we have to look back. Reflection is such a huge part of what I do. And, aside from just thinking about the past, it's also about looking at how far you've come. It's how we understand the highlights, but also what drained us, what we learned, and it really gives us the data to make better decisions moving forward. And so, first things first, you need a space for your thoughts. The Notes app on your phone, Notion, or my personal favorite, a physical notebook. There's something really powerful about pen to paper, and especially if you're just starting out. I think it makes the habits obvious and tangible. You can order a cute one on Amazon, or you can make a solo trip out of it and go to a local bookstore, Barnes Noble, and just really make it fun and make it exciting for you. It's really about creating a ritual around it and not just, you know, doing it for a few minutes. Like, really make time for it, make it an experience, maybe put on. So, I recommend setting aside at least 20 minutes for this because I think it really forces you to think about this rather than, just doing it passively. No distractions and just let yourself think and write. And remember, your journal is for you and no one else. So be brutally honest about what you're writing. What do you really want and what really happened this past year so far? So here are the prompts I use to guide my reflection. And I just want to say that if you need to, pause this episode and just take time after each question, definitely do that because, I'll just be reading the prompts, but take the time, take the 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it's going to take to really think about this because I know it's a lot. And one thing I want to say is sometimes even during my reflection, I get out my phone and I look at my camera roll because, sometimes I don't remember everything. And so getting out my camera roll really helps me just like look through each month and see what's happened. So first, what were your favorite moments of the year so far? Big or small. It could be a trip, a chat with a friend, a project you were proud of. List those out. Next, what did you do a lot of that you genuinely enjoyed? Maybe it was morning walks, because personally I've been doing a lot of walks in the morning, but then also throughout my breaks. And I love doing that. reading, or making content. On the flip side, what did you not do enough of? What did you miss? Then let's talk about habits. What are some habits you want to start? You still have 3 months in the year. It's still enough time for you to start a habit and stick to it. And what are some habits you might want to stop? Let's also think about learning. What are new things you've learned this year about yourself? Maybe it's a skill, about the world. And what are you curious to learn next? Maybe there's something that you've really been thinking about and you really want to put a lot of time in it this next quarter. And finally, the big ones. What were your biggest wins this year so far? And what were your biggest challenges? I love to celebrate small and big wins fully, and I also like to look at challenges as a learning experience. Because, and I heard this recently on another podcast, and Emma agreed. She was talking about how, the best things come from adversity. And so think about your biggest challenges. And as I mentioned, when you're doing this, you're not just remembering what happened, you're acknowledging how far you've come. And you're building this self awareness, which is the foundation for everything else. And it'll be nice to look at this in December, see how far you've come. So now we're getting into part 2, the goal setting and action plan. Now that you have all that clarity from looking back, let's use it to build your Q4. So this is the fun part, when you really dream big. First, I want you to pick your categories. I suggest choosing at most 4 categories. If this is your first time doing something this structured, maybe even just start with 2. The more goals you have, the more you spread your focus thin. And we want it to be effective, not just busy. These categories could be things like health, wealth, relationships, career, creativity, or your spiritual life. Let me take a sip of my tea here before we really get into it. For each category you choose, write down one big goal you want to accomplish by the end of the year. And right next to it, I want you to write down why you want it. We love purpose around here. Your why is what will fuel you, what will keep you going during the hard times, but then also during the good times. And if you want to really get into your why, my first full episode was all about your why. So, definitely look at that. It can't be because someone else wants it for you, or maybe you saw it while scrolling your feed. It really has to be for you. Next, we're going to make it visual. So I love making vision boards. I actually used to do this, even now, less so, but I used to do it all the time. I would definitely do it like on my birthdays, start of new quarters. So create a vision board for your Q4. You can use Canva, or another tool that I use is called Milanote. I'll link them both, but they're both amazing free tools. You can go on Pinterest and find images that represent what you want, the reality of what your goals will look like. And you might be surprised at the end of this quarter, really how close you've gotten to your vision board, because sometimes I look back and it's really looked similar. What does your healthy lifestyle look like? What does hitting that new financial milestone feel like? Find pictures that really resonate. Once you have it, I would recommend printing it out, or you can make it your phone wallpaper, your laptop wallpaper, put it somewhere where you'll see it every single day. It's not just about, looking at it, but also just about priming your brain to look for these opportunities and staying focused on the target. And of course, if you do look at something and really think about everything you want each day, then the more likely you'll achieve it. Okay, so now this next step is breaking it down. This is how you make a huge goal feel achievable. And I honestly do this on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis for all the things that I want to achieve. So, what we're going to do is you're going to go back to each goal you have and ask yourself, number one, on a monthly basis, to achieve this by the end of the year, what needs to happen in October? So, by the end of October, where do you need to be? In November, in December, what are these monthly milestones? And like I said, you might need to pause because I know this might take time to go back to, look at your goals, and then break it down month by month. Okay, now on a weekly basis, to hit that October milestone, what specific tasks do you need to do each week? So break it down even further. And then on a daily basis, to complete those weekly tasks, what small actions do you need to take every single day? Suddenly, starting a business becomes daily. Spend 30 minutes researching, learning from someone. Weekly, outlining your plan and maybe coming up with your website. Monthly, maybe having it live, having, the first products that you want up. So it's just a series of small, manageable steps that you can achieve over time. And of course, now that you've set a good foundation, I really suggest using AI. I know people have mixed feelings about it. Some people really love using it. And I think maybe if you don't love using it yet or you're not super comfortable, just use it more because you might have just not used it enough. And I would use AI as your personal strategist. So take this entire plan you just created. You already have your foundation, your goals, your why, your monthly, weekly, and daily breakdown, and put it into a tool like Gemini, ChatGPT, or Claude. Ask it, here's my Q4 plan. How can I refine this? What am I missing? What resources can you suggest to help me achieve this? You did the groundwork, and now let it help you optimize it because it'll help you way more than you think it can. Part 3, the follow through. This is everything. I need you to listen closely to this because this next part is where many people get stuck. If you're like me, a big visionary, someone with 1,000 ideas, the planning is so exciting. It's the execution, the daily follow through that can be the real challenge. You have this perfect color coded plan all broken down, and then you get stuck. So I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. It's just really another point of reflection that I've heard over and over again, specifically from one person. His name is Alex Hermosi, but he's an entrepreneur who built a $100 million net worth by 31. So he knows a thing or two about getting things done. First, if you continue to act exactly as you're acting right now, no changes, where will you be in 3 months at the end of the year? Is it going to be in the same job that you dislike, the same spot in your fitness journey, the same stress, maybe even worse than that? If you think bigger and if you think a year from now, 5 years from now, long term, if you continue to take the same actions you're taking today, get a crystal clear picture of that. And second, what is the cost of not acting on your plan now? What could you potentially achieve in the next 3 months if you did follow through? You could have 10,000 new followers. You could have your debt paid off. You could have that business idea validated and making it sales. The cost of inaction is often way higher than the risk that you're taking. And I get it. I really do. Some of us are in situations where we have to do a certain job to support ourselves, or where just going for it feels impossible. But it's about finding those little pockets of time. It's about taking those calculated risks, and most importantly, trusting yourself that you will figure it out along the way. So just take a moment to process that. And I want this podcast to be a space for you where you feel supported. So if you're scared of what people will think, if you feel like no one in your life gets it, literally send me a DM. I've been there, I get it, and I want you to know that you can do this, whatever your situation is. So practically speaking, how do we follow through? First, you have to schedule time for your goals. If you're not going to make time for it, how are you going to achieve it? And, what you can do is block out your calendar like a doctor's appointment, whether it's 30 minutes every morning before work, your 12 to 1 p.m. lunch break, or a 3-hour block on a Sunday. You have to honor that time because the greats of our generation have worked hard and it's taken sacrifice. You cannot keep going the way you are and expect different results. Second, you need to learn. Often, what might be holding you back is a knowledge gap. You'll probably need to watch some YouTube tutorials. You might need to find a mentor, maybe even hire a coach. Go on TikTok and find a credible expert who talks about what you want to achieve. The faster you learn, the less friction you'll face. And you can treat learning as an exciting part of the journey. I love learning. I love learning new things every day. And I think honestly, now that the summer is done, I think this was the summer that I learned. I did a lot of learning this summer. I hired a neuroscientist to help me learn more about my brain. I started driving. I hired a swimming coach. And I really love learning genuinely. And so this can really be a new opportunity for you to learn. And this all comes back to that why you wrote down earlier. If you've been saying you want something for a while but never take action, you might need to have an honest conversation with yourself because do you really want that? Or do you just like the idea of it? Maybe you saw someone else have it. Get clear on what you want for your life, not what your parents, not what your boss or your partner wants for you. Because in the end, you're the one in the driver's seat. I know that it was a lot, but honestly, you have it written down. You have your goals. That's your game plan for this next quarter. It's really simple. Reflect, be intentional, and set these focused and meaningful goals, and then break them down into tiny steps, and then fiercely protect the time you need to execute. I actually have a tracker, so I usually use a tracker on Google Sheets where I write down my daily and weekly habits, tasks, whatever I need to do, and write it down. And then at the end of each week, I'll also reflect on how far I've come, and what needs to be done next week. And so personally, that really helps me. And then I can continue to look back on everything I've done. I also use this company, and actually, for the past few years, I've been using them. Sometimes when I travel, I can't always get it, but it's a company called Silk and Sonder, and it's a journal that I use. Wait, I'm actually going to get it really quick. Totally not sponsored, of course. This is like my second episode, but maybe one day. And I get a calendar, I get a journal monthly, and I was not expecting to talk about this at all, but it's actually been a large part of me tracking my goals. And each month there's a theme. And so basically, it already has the reflection parts in it, it has the goals part in it. And each month, so for example, for this past month, it was bravery. And, there's little prompts that are in it. There's this mood tracker, habit tracker, and there's even like a coloring book, a gratitude log, your core values, and bravery. So that's what this page is about, bravery journal prompts. And there's also blank pages. And so if you want an easy way to, track all of this and you can have it all in 1 month, each month you get a new one, you can check it out. And I've been using it, I want to say since COVID, since 2020, because that's when I found her. And she's a really great person. I've like exchanged a few messages with her, and she really wanted to make a journal that was all encompassing. And I've used all the journals out there, like all the journals that you can think of. I've done the signature bullet journaling, lavender. I've used lots of journals, even a physical journal, of course. But if you want something to level up, you can check that out. And if you want your own thing, just completely blank pages. There was also a point in my life where I was just doing bullet journaling and filling that out every day. And so, I really recommend to continue reflecting and looking back at your progress throughout the next few weeks. Your next 90 days can have a massive impact on your year. Don't underestimate what you can do. And if this episode resonated with you, I would love to hear about it. Take a screenshot, share it to your story, message me on Instagram. And if you are starting this process, and you really need someone to help you, I'm here for you. So just let me know. So thanks for spending this time with me today. And I'm really excited to hear about all your goals that you'll be working on. You've got this. Thanks for tuning in to Thriving with Trisha. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you hit follow, leave a review, and shared it with someone. I'll see you on the next one.